they know, I forget his name, brother from LA. They said we can't afford, so I got my credit card, called them and said, hey, come on to New York. Because they were such an integral part of the show, as you can see in the piece. What was so nice about our dear brother Oscar is that after the show there downtown, the young people came out and said, who is that guy?
That's right.
You know, and I said, that was Oscar Brown Jr., one of the greatest artists here. And the other one, they said, the other younger woman, they said, who was that? That's Tosha Regan, Bernice Regan's daughter. You know, so if you know, we always try to do cross-generational things, or if you ever really follow me, you know that, that it's not just about who we are about, but like also the people that we've helped train on that stage also with us, you know, performing. So young people can see there's no difference between us, and there's no reason, you know, for any difference, and there's no reason for you to wish that we were dead so you can take over the stage, you know, because we're still kicking, and they're kicking at the same time, and that's about continuity, is it not? Yes.
I think one thing I just wanted to make just a quick, I guess I'm supposed to make a short director statement about the film. And the question that happened when we were outside doing some of the press was, why did you make the film? But I think that if you see the film, you understand why I made the film. Sonia's life is just represents so many things, as we say on the on the poster that we came up with. Poet, educator, mother, activist, freedom fighter, and the courage of her life and the struggles of her life and all of the things that she did was just inspirational. And when I got to spend time with Sonia, I first met her when I was 16 years old, and I was out on bail on the Panther 21 case. I had been arrested as part of that case with the Fannie Shakur and 19 other Panthers in New York. And I first saw Sonia perform at a fundraiser for political prisoners, and was just in total awe, and just was honored to meet her. I knew that she was one of the founders of the Black Arts Movement and the Black Studies Movement, and just so many important things. And then years later, through Tupac Shakur and through Afeni Shakur, we were doing an album that Bose and I were producing, along with Afeni, turning Tupac's poetry into a spoken word album. And when when Sonia was recording, I knew then that her life was a film, because her whole life is sound and poetry and activism in motion. What we wished for the film is that we had more money and that we had more time. What I realized about the film is that that it had to get out into the world, that my need to probably raise more money and do more things was far outweighed by the need for the world to have Sonia's film and for us to experience it there.
I guess sometimes some of our happiest moments are moments sometimes when we're on stage, you know, and you engage audiences, and you know you have the audience, you know, and you're on stage for 3 hours and don't realize 3 hours have passed. I've done that sometimes, and just, you know, felt the audience and moved across the stage for 3 hours, talking and reading, you know, and being. Those are some just amazing moments. It's very difficult to explain sometimes to people that, and even when you see yourself on screen, you know, for years I wouldn't watch myself on screen, you know, because we come up out of a movement where we were taught not to praise ourselves. And so it's always very hard for me to see anything that reflects that. So I've had to pull myself sometimes to just see, you know, what I said, perhaps. And sometimes someone said, girl, you had the same dress on, right, you know? I say, yeah, you know, my wardrobe is limited. You know, there are just moments usually walking across campus with my students, you know. I remember walking into a classroom at Temple for a comp class, and they were all mostly white males. And they looked up and saw me, and their eyes would say, what am I doing here? You know, so I went up and walked and wrote my name across the board, you know, whatever. And I said, I just tell you something. If you don't want to stay here, I'll let you out by the end of the week, right? Just try. Just stay and see, you know, if you can learn something. And they stayed for the semester. And these kids from the Northeast and South Philadelphia, right? You know, would go across and say, yo, hey, prof, it's me, you know? And I say, yo, hey, how you be? You know? And what that's about is what we were about when we started something called Black Studies, contrary to what people said, you know. What this has been about is that to raise that whole question of what does it mean to be human. You know, we went to universities and we never saw ourselves except in experiments. You know, the sociology class, but those little rats running through those little, you know, we knew that was I. That was we, you know. But what we did when we went into the university is say, Now we're going to really see and hear and read and learn and understand truly, you know, about, you know, African people. And I was saying to someone outside the interview, one of the best things, the best moments that happened to me, and I have to include my family, my father, is that one day I was sitting and he was, you know, he was his last year of his life. And he said, girl, Sonia, read me that book. And I had done 2 books after the book, but I knew he was talking about, which was dedicated again to him and my brother. The book called Does Your House Have Lions? You know, about his son and about him and about the family. And I read that story, and then when I finished, you know, there were lots of things he said, but he said, finally he looked at me, he said, come here. And he hugged me, and he said, I understand now what you were doing. You know, it is something to live long enough with a parent, you know, and to be there, because I gave up teaching to spend that last year with him, right? And I would say to people, make sure that you forgive, it's your parents, you forgive each other. That day, I forgave him and he forgave me. And it was easier for him to make transition as a consequence of that. But that beautiful evening when the sun was setting, I read Does Your House Have Lions about his son who died of AIDS, about the family that came together, about a father who looked up and smiled at me and said, you know, I understand what you've been doing. Who told me all my life, girl, you'll get in trouble. Girl, you're going to get hurt. Or girl, you're going to get arrested, which we did. Girl, you're going to go to jail, which we did. You know, all that stuff. But he just really wanted to protect us. But what I want to say to you young people, that, you know, we didn't live these lives for you just to look pretty. We didn't live these lives sometimes. I was put out of New York City. Some of you people know that, the ones looking at me. They put me out of New York City. I didn't go willingly. They put me out of New York City because I challenged the educational system here, you know, with the Black Studies movement. They put me out. They would not let me teach any place. Picked up my record, took it downtown to 34th Street, so I couldn't get a job. I got offers from Ohio, got offers from Michigan, too cold, and Amherst, Massachusetts. And I went to Amherst, Massachusetts because I could drive back to New York in 2 hours. But I remember when I packed up, and I remember when I went in there and they drove me up and I put my children to bed, the twins to bed, and I sat down and I cried the entire night as I fixed the furniture, whatever, said, why? When my children woke up, you know, my children woke up and then I got them dressed and we went out for food. I took my little Volkswagen across Main Street, got to the corner, and standing on the corner were 3 black men on Main Street. I can't think of the brother who was worked for the radio, but Archie Shep and Max Roach. Max, at 9 o'clock in the morning, was styled in some brown pants and a brown shirt and a brown leather jacket and a hat, sitting AC-doocy. And I honked the horn, and he came around and hugged me and said, Sonia, welcome, welcome, welcome to Amherst. I am forever, you know, grateful for that. I'm forever grateful to you, my students, who not only kept me alive, but I kept you alive. When I went to universities, to presidents, and demanded that they do right by you. You know, when the FBI came to my house because I taught Du Bois and write and Hughes and Garvey came in my door and said, stuck its badge in my face and said simply, "You're teaching Du Bois and Hughes and Wright." And I was so young and naive at the time. I said, "Yes, I am teaching them. You can't teach Black Lit without them."
Right.
And he was mad because they had banned them. Nobody taught them. Nobody taught them. But we young people came through the Black Studies, started Black Studies and said, "You will not, be you black, white, green, purple, blue, go to the university without tasting Du Bois, Souls of Black Folk and Black Reconstruction." What happens next? Well, I'm trying to finish up 2 books. And my editor is asking the same question, what happens next with the book? Because, I'm retired, I have to, make a living still, in terms of the economy and whatever goes down. But I'm forever writing, we write until the last breath. I'm forever teaching workshops. I teach outside the university because, a lot of young people, need to learn the craft. This craft called writing. It is a craft. Make no mistake about it. What I'm doing now is that there is a peace mural. In Philadelphia, they wanted to do a mural. And I said, I'll do a mural if it's a peace mural. Because what we must do is we must insinuate our lives with peace. Okay? We must understand that people need to understand the role of peace on this earth. Not the role of war. Not the role of antagonism, the role of peace. And so we're doing a peace mural. And Sister Toni Morris and Sister Maya Angelou and Sister Alice Walker have sent 3 lines of peace that would be on the peace mural, along with a haiku, because I said peace is a haiku sound. The haiku has no greed and no violence in it. And so what I'm asking people is that not only to write a peace haiku and to send it to the Mural Arts, Sonia Sanchez at muralarts.com in Philadelphia, but I'm asking people to begin to do a major workshop, about peace. Peace. Peace is a haiku sound. It is important. So one of the ways that I do simple things like that is that, I have a garden in the back, flowers. I love in front and back. And one day I just took down, it was falling down. I took down the fence and I said to my neighbor, why don't we have shared gardens? My garden is your garden is my garden. Right? Right? You understand? I was sitting on my porch after a walk one morning, and these children were going to school, and they were fighting in front of my house. So I came up the stoop, and I said, hey, what's the deal? What's the deal? She said, I said, I don't care what she said. Come on. They looked at me, and I said, come on. I went inside my house. I took them and said, look at this house. What do you feel in this house? And this little girl said, oh, it's so quiet and peaceful. Yeah, that's what you should be. So one morning, the next day, evening, I got up and wrote, because I'm not, this artist, right? I wrote on my sidewalk in front of my house, peace is. And I wrote some haiku. So the next day they came out, and they were walking, and they looked. I said, why not make them peaceful before they get into school? It's important that you do that, that we do that. So I put on my evergreen tree, and again, the first rain knocked it all out, but I'm trying to get artists who would tell me what we need to, what kind of material we need to put on the tree, saying peace is, whatever, okay, to leave it. But in Philadelphia, what they're going to do is that we're going to have kiosks leading up to the big mural. So I asked Tristan McBride to do some chords of peace. And I'm asking Talib and Def to do a rap about peace. I'm asking dancers to dance peace, and of course I asked a lot of writers. A lot of writers are sitting in peace haiku. So they'll be like, you can pull something and hear someone recite something about peace. And then I asked them to do some sidewalks of peace. Now it's interesting. You do this, and officials get nervous because of the word peace. Can you imagine?
Yes.
That tells you a great deal about this. But just think about it. If we don't do this thing called peace, we got to do it. We need to do that in the Congress. You know what I mean? We need to really go down. I'm waiting for people to come with me to sit in Congress again like we used to. We need to go down and sit and say, listen, people, you talking about trying to give jobs to people in America? Let's bring home the billions of dollars we spend on war, and people will have jobs. I know.